The story begins with a boy anxiously checking his phone and sees that tickets for the Blue Impulse live show are sold out. Among the rising idol groups, Kuromia stands out, being only 15 years old. At that time, the MC did not know the real secret of the idol he always watched from behind the screen. The scene shifts to a classroom where new students await the return of their test papers. The teacher explains that while the school's exams are tougher than those at other schools, they are designed to prepare students for a better future. One by one, students are called up to collect their results. Hiruno Hisashi sits tense, thinking about his marks. He fears he must score more than 90 or his mother will punish him. Sweat runs down his face as he prays to God for good results. A flashback comes to him of when he once scored 89 while his sister Akari scored full marks. His mother scolded him harshly, saying no one in her family had ever gotten such a poor result. She warned him that if he scored like that in high school, she would not allow him back home. Since the first day of high school, he has carried that pressure. A girl steps forward to collect her test and politely thanks the teacher. Hiruno notices her as whispers spread through the classroom. She's beautiful and smart. Her name is Rai Kuromia, and she's an idol. At first, Hiruno assumes she must be a class or local idol, but then it clicks. She's the real deal. She is admired for her beauty and intelligence. A once-in-a-generation genius idol, Kuromia Rai. From Hiruno's perspective, they belong to different worlds. He compares himself to her as she can balance her studies and being an idol at the same time. The teacher finally calls Hiruno's name. His test shows only 4 points. The teacher assigns him to an after-school makeup class. Classmates whisper and call him an idiot. Hiruno still wishes to improve, but worries about how to explain this to his mother. After school, people with cameras gather outside, waiting to interview Kuromia. Students discuss that she has already gone home to practice for her live concert. Hiruno passes by, preoccupied with his makeup class and worried about what excuse he would give to his mom. Then he hears a voice from a room, reciting something similar to the Pythagorean theorem. He opens the door and sees Kuromia inside, repeating a square b square. He is shocked and asks if she is in the wrong classroom. She explains that the teacher told her to come here. He notices her sweating heavily and asks about what she was reciting. She replies that it is part of her next performance lyrics. He does not fully believe it, but apologizes and politely asks if she has trouble in studies. He realizes he is taking the makeup class together with Kuromia, the so-called genius idol. She admits she is not an idiot, though she only scored 16 marks this time. Hiruno recalls how confidently she collected her paper and points this out. She rants about how she normally scores high. Hiruno feels relieved, realizing the expectations on her are too high, and that she is also a normal girl. Suddenly, Kuromia remembers her 6 o'clock lesson, so she needs to hurry. Hiruno offers to teach her. She questions why, since he also failed. He shows his test paper and explains that he misplaced his answers from question 5 onward. Without that mistake, he would have scored 94. Kuromia is surprised, calling it a manga-like mistake. Hiruno insists he can help her a little. She refuses, saying it is her responsibility as a student and idol to manage both. He apologizes, believing she's committed to balancing both school and her idol career. He calls himself an idiot for intruding. Seeing her struggle, he becomes worried. Hauti High School is an elite, top-tier institution where students can advance directly to university after graduation. As a result, the tests are brutal, and the study hall workload is just as intense. After an hour, Hiruno finally finishes and glances over at Kuromia, only to find her seemingly frozen in time. He offers to help her just for today, knowing she has a lesson at 6 and already seems overwhelmed. But Kuromia responds quietly, almost sadly, saying that his help won't fix the real problem. Then drops a bombshell: she has to quit being an idol. She reveals that her mother only allows her to be an idol if she maintains top grades. After being scolded for her recent test, she's been warned that one more failure means she'll have to quit. Through tears, she admits she feels like a fraud, unable to live up to the image her fans admire, and says she doesn't deserve to be an idol. Hiruno sits silently, then erases answers from his paper. After a moment, he offers to solve the problems together with her. She protests that it'll take too much time, but he replies that if they work together, they can finish before her lesson. She agrees, and they begin studying together. He encourages her with claps and a thumbs up when she solves a question. When they finish, Kuromia apologizes for relying on him. Hiruno tells her not to worry and that she can ask him again. As they leave the school, photographers still wait outside, surprising Haruno. After hesitating a bit, she asks him for one more thing. She states that she wants to continue being called a genius without shame and asks if he will study with her, only if he agrees. Haruno is stunned but accepts. Media cameras click around them. Nervous, he says they should get along as friends and classmates. She replies that pointing out such details is strange, and leaves after bidding him goodbye. At home, Haruno's mother demands an explanation for his test score. He apologizes to her. Meanwhile, Kuromia sits in her bathtub, talking on the phone. The person on the line asks if she was taught by someone else, and whether he is handsome, since Kuromia rarely relies on others. She replies it is not like that, then admits Haruno seems like a nice person. The person asks his name, and Kuromia admits she forgot. They tease her for her forgetfulness. Haruno, however, will soon come to understand the difficulties of teaching her, along with the charm of the idol he has always watched from behind the screen. The next day at school, students gather around Kuromia and praise her for her live performance, which was featured in an online article. Haruno watches from a distance, musing that she's known as a genius idol from the super popular group Blue Impulse. In Haruno's mind, she is a perfect human, excelling both as an idol and in her studies, or at least she's supposed to be. The reality is that Haruno has ended up assisting her with studies. Sitting in his seat, he feels anxious. The situation seems so incomprehensible that he begins to doubt whether he is dreaming. He tries to convince himself that this is reality. Kuromia walks toward him and softly tells him that she will meet him after school. His face flushes red, and in that moment he accepts that this is not a dream. After school, Haruno sits in the makeup class, nervous and restless. He wonders if he is really effective as a teacher, considering that he has to teach someone like her. The door slams open and Kuromia enters, muttering about the right-hand rule. Haruno greets her, and she returns the greeting. At that moment, he arrives at an answer to his doubts. The truth is clear to him. She is not a genius. Her demanding schedule as an idol has caused her to fall behind in her studies. Yet if she fails again, her mother will make her quit being an idol. Haruno informs her that today's subject is Japanese history, confusing her. He can't help but reflect on how he now knows her secret, and how, in his own way, he's helping her become the perfect idol. Kuromia asks who he is. Haruno is caught off guard, reminding her that they studied together yesterday. She clarifies that she means she has not asked his name before. He introduces himself, though for a moment he panics, thinking she has already forgotten him. She then asks whether anyone saw him coming there, and he confirms no one did. They begin studying. Voices of students jogging outside filter in through the window while they focus on their lesson. Haruno looks at her, fully conscious of the fact that an idol is sitting in front of him, alone with him in the room. The thought distracts him, but he forces himself to concentrate. When he notices her struggling expression, he asks if she is stuck on a problem. She shows him the part she does not understand. Haruno explains that it is a specialized question. Kuromia panics and admits she is not good with such material. He tells her there is a lot to memorize. She confesses she is not good at remembering names to begin with. Haruno points out that such weakness is serious for a celebrity. She nods and admits her manager often scolds her about it. He advises her to remember names through context. If she connects an era and situation to the figure, it becomes easier. He illustrates this by drawing simple figures. She glances at his sketch and faintly comments that he might be good at drawing. He explains further, linking names to other associations. He stresses that connecting points of view may seem difficult at first, but it is effective for long-term memory. Furthermore, he briefly explains that the king of Baekje introduced Buddhism and sutras to Emperor Kinmi, hoping to spread them in Japan. She remains silent, so Haruno chuckles softly and assures her there is no need to rush. He tells her to practice writing and reading the content, and also to rely on visual memory. Kuromia says she felt the same way yesterday, but admits he's actually good at teaching. Haruno thanks her. She adds that with his help, the material is easier to understand and remember. She expresses gratitude and calls him Fujita. Our lad corrects her, reminding her his name is Haruno. 30 minutes later, Haruno checks her progress. When he looks at her notebook, he freezes. She has been writing his name repeatedly on the page. Shocked, he asks her about it. She explains that she cannot remember his name otherwise. He raises his voice, telling her to prioritize the names of historical figures over his. Anxiety fills him as he realizes she may be wasting time and energy in the wrong way. He takes her notebook to inspect further. At the bottom of the page, he finds words like kind, good at drawing, and good at teaching. Haruno wonders if those notes are about him. It dawns on him that she is practicing his advice in her own style, but her method is unusual. He recognizes that she is motivated, but her direction is odd. Suddenly his eyes remain open. He recalls that he himself told her to write and read things repeatedly, and to rely on visuals. She is doing exactly that. Kuromia begins to repeat his name aloud. Haruno asks her what she is doing, but she pulls herself closer to him. Nervous, he mutters that she is getting too close. She leans in, says his name again, and announces that now she remembers it. After that, she continues working hard to memorize the names of others. Kuromia is leaning so close to him that he freezes in place, her breath brushing lightly as she utters the words of her line. He is utterly confused because he is supposed to be teaching her English, yet the situation has turned into something he cannot process. She finishes her sentence and looks at him with expectation, asking how she did. Haruno's mind spins as he tries to recall how it even came to this. 30 minutes earlier, he had held in his hand some music notes that Kuromia received for her performance in music class the next day. She confessed that she did not know how to pronounce certain parts in English, and asked him to teach her. He wondered whether she usually sang English songs with natural skill, or if she relied on cue cards for pronunciation. Kuromia apologized for asking something outside the scope of supplementary lessons, but Haruno reassured her, saying that he would help with anything she was struggling with. He suggested they begin reading from the start. She agreed and started. She reached the word Europe and struggled, pronouncing it as Europa. Haruno corrected her, correcting her pronunciation. Immediately, she gave up, insisting that she is Japanese. Haruno quickly told her not to use that as an excuse, urging her not to fall back. She found it difficult, almost impossible. He decided they should instead focus on fixing her accent and vowel pronunciation, since that is crucial. She gave no immediate reply, and after a while her eyes drifted toward the window. Haruno told her not to daydream, but she murmured as though she might catch a cold tomorrow. He told her not to lose hope and insisted they would start with the pronunciation of L and R. He explained how to pronounce L by pressing the tongue against the teeth, and R by retracting and rounding the tongue. She agreed and told him to watch her mouth carefully to see if she was doing it right. She leaned forward and began reading the entire line. When she finished, she asked him if it was good. Haruno, distracted, thought to himself that her tongue is small, but that her teeth alignment is very good. Lost in those thoughts, he barely noticed her leaning even closer. Kuromia called out to him, asking if he was listening properly. Her closeness made him nervous, and when she completed her line with the words "thanks for the love," she asked again if she had done well. Haruno, flustered and unable to control his voice, shouted that it was really good. She smiled, delighted, and prepared to move on to the next line. But Haruno, overwhelmed, shouted for a break. The next day in music class, Kuromia is called to the front to sing. Haruno watches her nervously, hoping that her pronunciation has improved. He thinks that if she fails, it would be his fault. Kuromia begins singing, and her voice flows through the room with a brilliance that shocks everyone. The entire class, including Haruno, is left in awe. Haruno realizes at that moment that although he has always thought of her as just an ordinary girl, the reality is far different. She is extraordinary. When she finishes, the teacher's eyes fill with tears. He praises her voice as beautiful, asking if she can sing the song for next week as well, because they want to hear more from her. The class erupts in excitement, cheering loudly. Kuromia freezes, uncertain. Haruno stiffens as well, knowing she has not practiced the next song. The teacher urges her again to begin. Kuromia anxiously glances at Haruno, silently asking for help. The teacher notices her hesitation and questions her. Haruno raises his hand, his body trembling. He speaks up with effort, explaining that Kuromia is an idol and they should not strain her voice too much. The teacher listens and agrees, telling her to save it for next week. The class, however, does not agree and begins to mock Haruno for interfering. After class, Haruno walks the corridor with a heavy heart. He feels that it is over, that everyone now thinks of him as someone who cannot read the room. His steps slow with sadness. Suddenly, Kuromia stops him. She thanks him for his help. Haruno apologizes for interfering, worried he may have overstepped. Kuromia murmurs something, then says more clearly, "You were cool." She repeats her practice line, "Thanks for the love," and asks if her pronunciation has improved. Haruno's face turns red with embarrassment. He quickly replies that next time they'll study the meanings as well. Later, Kuromia and Haruno are seated together with books spread across the table. The silence between them is broken when Kuromia suddenly asks if he uses line. Haruno blinks, unsure of what she means, until she continues with a calm suggestion that they exchange line information so it will be easier for them to keep in touch. His throat tightens as her words sink in. She is an idol, yet she is offering to exchange contact details with him. The weight of the moment presses heavily on his chest. Haruno nods hesitantly and mutters that if it is fine with her, then he agrees. His hand shakes slightly under the table as his thoughts scatter in endless circles. He worries about whether it is really acceptable for him, whether he can open his phone freely in public without drawing suspicion, and what might happen if his phone is hacked. The idea of her information being exposed terrifies him. He tells himself that exchanging with classmates is one thing, but with her it feels far too heavy. While he is caught in this spiral, Kuromia lifts her phone and gives it a light shake in front of him. The simple action pulls him back to reality. To him, the sight looks unexpectedly cute, but he clears his throat and asks what she is doing. She answers softly that a friend can be added by shaking the phone. Haruno looks at her with calm seriousness and explains that the feature was removed long ago. Her expression freezes as realization dawns, and embarrassment spreads across her face. Her cheeks redden and she lowers her gaze, her nervous smile tugging at his chest. To him, her flustered state looks undeniably cute. He asks if she is not good with smartphones. Kuromia admits it in a quiet voice. He offers to add her through a QR code instead. They lean closer, and after scanning, her profile appears on his screen. His eyes widen when he sees the photo. It is Kuromia with her dog, both of them smiling. His lips move before his mind can catch up, blurting out the word cute with too much force. She lifts her head quickly and asks if he is fine. His face burns, and he stammers that he means the dog looks cute. Her shoulders ease and her smile softens as she begins speaking fondly about her dog. She tells him that the dog is only 3 years old and that she loves taking him out for walks. The way her voice warms while she talks makes her look even more gentle. She turns to him with bright eyes and asks if he also has a dog. He quietly shakes his head. Without missing a beat, she exclaims with enthusiasm that he should have one too. Her cheerful tone spreads warmth in the space, and Haruno can only nod faintly in response. His eyes return to her profile picture again, and he realizes how different she looks compared to the idol Kuromia on stage. He says that she appears different. Kuromia answers calmly that it is because of hair extensions. She explains that at work she wears them because her idol image demands it, but in school she avoids them due to the rules. Haruno mutters to himself that it sounds tough. She responds that wearing the extensions helps her switch into her idol version, but without them, she feels more relaxed, closer to herself. Her words shock him more than expected. His eyes widen as he asks whether she is relaxed right now. She meets his gaze and confirms it with a shy nod. His chest feels tight, and he speaks firmly. He says being famous is already hard, and adding school makes it harder. He tells her to let him know if it ever gets too much. Kuromia lowers her gaze, her cheeks glowing. In a soft voice, she admits that she feels she can relax in front of him. The moment she hears her own words, her face flushes red. She quickly gathers her belongings, blurts out that she has to leave for her lesson, and walks away in haste. Haruno is left staring after her, confused and unsettled. The next day arrives, and Haruno sits at his desk with a restless body and a nervous heart. He could not study properly at home. His mind had been consumed with the thought of receiving a line message from Kuromia, but no message came. He convinces himself that she must be too busy as an idol, with work and studies leaving her no spare time. Still, the silence weighs down on him. As he struggles with his thoughts, a classmate announces loudly that everyone should join the class group chat. Soon his phone buzzes with messages and invitations. He joins the group and scrolls through the conversation. As expected of students at an elite school, the topics revolve around studying and lessons. He nods absent-mindedly at their discipline, but then notices something that makes his heart skip. Among the group members, he sees Kuromiya's name and profile picture. He compares it with the account she exchanged with him yesterday and realizes instantly that this is different. The private account is not added here. His pulse races as he sends her a message asking if she has 2 accounts. She replies that she does. He types again, asking if she doesn't share her second account. Her response comes quickly. She writes only to look over there. He lifts his head and turns toward her. Kuromia meets his gaze and silently presses a finger against her lips. The quiet gesture strikes him deeply. His cheeks flush bright red as the meaning settles over him. Another secret has been entrusted to him. Hiruno is packing his bag while his eyes drift once again toward Kuromia. Students are surrounding her, their voices rising with question after question. Normally, she answers them with cheerful patience, yet today her replies are short and bland, her expression calm but distant. Even in this manner, the students around her remain impressed. Hiruno overhears 3 boys whispering near him. One remarks that she is unbelievably patient, almost like a saint. Hiruno exhales quietly. He knows that they are misunderstanding her in a positive light, and even though it looks admirable on the surface, he feels uneasy knowing that this is the reality she faces every day. The same boys keep talking. Another one leans closer to his friends and says that he wants to go out with her. His voice turns lively as he spins a story of his own imagination. He describes approaching her with confidence, asking her to meet in an empty classroom. In his fantasy, she scolds him lightly, saying that he is 3 minutes late, and then they sit face to face, studying together, chatting and flirting with ease. He laughs, calling it the best situation he could dream of. Hiruno freezes at these words, his mind flashing back to his own recent memories with her. His chest tightens. The boy's friends laugh, and one warns him to calm down, insisting that such a situation would spread rumors if it ever happened. They insist that she would never behave that way anyway because she is intelligent. Hiruno lowers his gaze, his nerves growing heavier. He realizes the truth that Kuromia might not be thinking about such risks, so he has to be the one who stays responsible. After school, they sit down to study as usual. Hiruno cautiously brings up the topic of scandal. Kuromia replies that she wouldn't want that, then asks why he brought it up. He responds vaguely, but admits internally that rumors could easily start and that he wants to avoid any misunderstanding about their relationship, deciding inwardly to maintain a careful distance. Despite the topic, Kuromia remains focused. She answers his questions with concentration, her confidence showing as she closes her eyes to recall details and then speaks with clarity. Hiruno corrects and guides her, shaping her answers with quiet patience. At one point, when she opens her eyes again, she notices that he is sitting further away than before. She looks at him directly and asks about it. He explains in a steady voice that he does this only to prevent unnecessary trouble for them. Kuromia frowns softly. She asks if being close to her would cause him trouble. He quickly denies it, saying that is not what he means. She lifts her phone, then shows him a picture of her dog. Without thinking, Hiruno mutters from where he sits that it looks cute. Kuromia begins to close the distance between them, yet Hiruno instinctively shifts away. He steps back slowly, retreating until he finds himself pressed into a corner. Kuromia follows without hesitation, placing her hands against the surface near him and leaning in close. Her eyes fix on him as she asks why he is running away. Her closeness makes him flinch, and his voice rises with panic. He shouts that it is dangerous. He admits that he is trying to avoid creating rumors that could damage her reputation. Kuromia studies him for a moment, then sighs and speaks with honesty. She says that he was only avoiding her because of some whispers. She tells him that she is always cautious about such matters and has been managing them for a long time. Her voice sharpens with curiosity as she adds that perhaps he is the type who makes overly strong assumptions. Hiruno lowers his gaze, regret seeping into his tone as he apologizes. Kuromia breaks the silence and calmly reassures him that he doesn't need to move away. She tells him directly that he's a good person. She adds that she hasn't heard any strange rumors, so their secret is still safe, and that should be enough to ease his worries. Hiruno feels the tightness in his chest fade, relief washing over him. Kuromia looks at him with a softer expression now. Her lips curve faintly, and she murmurs that she does not hate that part of him. The words strike him deeply, and his body trembles slightly. To him, it almost sounds like a proposal or at the very least an intimate confession. He grips tightly at his own thoughts, reminding himself that she is a professional idol. She has surely thought carefully about crisis management, and he does not need to protect her so obsessively. Yet at the core of his heart, he only wishes to keep her safe from becoming a victim of senseless rumors. He is lost in these thoughts when her voice cuts through his silence. Kuromia wonders if they can meet on the upcoming weekend. His eyes remain wide open, and after a pause, he finally utters that they should go to karaoke so they can study there. She agrees without hesitation, telling him to head there first and wait for her. When the weekend arrives, he reaches the karaoke place before her. Sitting there alone, He feels his chest tighten with unease, thinking anxiously that he has been swept away once again. The situation is far from ordinary, and the reality of being inside a locked room with just the two of them strikes him as something dangerously close to a date. His thoughts grow restless. He tries to drive away the evil images that rise in his mind, but no matter how hard he tries, they linger. He wonders what kind of clothes she might wear. He thinks of whether she would appear in disguise, blending into the crowd, or if she would reveal herself in normal clothes. He imagines her in different outfits, stylish ones, simple ones, and even pretty casual dresses that might suit her. Every thought only deepens the heat in his chest, until he finally shakes his head, attempting to silence the fantasies before they consume him. Suddenly, the door opens. A girl steps in, apologizing for making him wait. He quickly denies that she made him wait long, but his eyes fix on the figure before him. Blonde hair falls from beneath a cap, and for a moment he does not recognize her at all. His first thought is that someone has entered the wrong room. Then she removes the cap and reveals herself. It is Kuromia. The realization stuns him, leaving his eyes frozen wide as he mutters her name. She nods, explaining lightly that the day is unbearably hot, and suggests they sit in back. He agrees at once, but in his chest, a sharp thought cuts through. Her earlier warnings about being careful. She had been right all along. She had prepared for this meeting in her own way, while he wasted his time drowning in unnecessary worry. Kuromia settles into the sofa, and when she notices him still standing, she asks if he is not going to sit. He blurts out that he will, yet his mind betrays him. Sitting across from her feels heavy, and the natural, fresh charm she gives off in her normal clothes pulls at him uncontrollably. She takes something from her bag, and curiosity pushes him to ask what she is pulling out. In her hands is a tambourine. His eyes widen again. He reminds her that they came here to study, not to sing, but her carefree energy fills the room regardless. They begin their study session, and to his surprise, they can concentrate better than he expected. The environment, though odd, does not distract them as much as he had feared. At one point, he notices the room growing hot and hands her a body sheet to wipe her sweat. She accepts it gratefully, thanking him before pressing it to her skin. His gaze lingers longer than it should, the simple image of her wiping herself in her casual outfit carrying an innocence that feels both fresh and dangerously exciting. His heart beats faster, and he begins to panic. Abruptly he stands, claiming that he will adjust the air conditioner to avoid heat stroke. In truth, he is trying to escape the surge of thoughts that threaten to consume him. As he presses the remote, the television suddenly lights up. An advertisement begins playing, and it is none other than Kuromiya's new song. She shifts uncomfortably and mutters that he does not need to watch it, her tone betraying embarrassment. He wonders aloud how an idol can be embarrassed by her own commercial. She avoids his eyes, explaining softly that she just does not want her friends or family to see it. He finds her logic strange, but before he can say more, she urges him to return to their studies. Time passes quickly, and when the session ends, Kuromia insists on paying the bill. He protests immediately, telling her that she should not, but she reminds him that she works and that this is the least she can do to repay him. He shakes his head, saying it still feels wrong. She explains again that if she does not pay, then there is no benefit for him in coming. She calculates aloud, deciding that 2,000 yen should be fine. She glances at the slip, noting that the amount is not far from what she carries. Then her lips curl with a teasing remark, pointing out that being with a popular idol like her should count as a benefit too. His chest stiffens at her words, and he insists again that he will pay. She quickly denies him, holding firm to her decision. He asks her to hand him the slip. She refuses. Their hands tug back and forth, pulling at the paper, neither willing to give in. His strength finally wins. She leans forward, demanding he return it. Suddenly, her foot slips against the floor. Her balance falters, and in an instant they both collapse onto the sofa. She lands above him. Their eyes meet in stunned silence, wide and uncertain.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.